Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I so appreciate you guys coming in. Thank you for joining me. I'm Tish Ross, the host of No Judgement Here. And I am so excited to share my guests' thoughts and maybe opinions on how we are raised and how we grow up, maybe without parents present or a parent present, or even in my case, parents that are present, but I was just raised a little differently. And so what the remnants of that is, or the effects of, and we wonder sometimes, why am I the way that I am? And it could be because of the way that you may or may not have been raised. So I'm going to bring my guest, and I'm so excited. She's my dear friend, Elena Rodriguez, and I'm going to have her come in, introduce herself, and tell you guys a little bit about herself. Thank you for joining, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share. Okay, thank you.
Hello.
There she is.
Hello, Tish.
Hello, Elena, my dearest friend. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well. I'm staying warm. We just got our snowstorm coming through, so I have no problem staying nice and cozy inside right now.
I know, right? I was just chatting with my sister and told her, man, this staying in nice and cozy, eating chips and scrolling on my phone. I don't know, man. Might not be very good for my waistline, but we're going to get back at it, back in the gym. But I appreciate your time and for agreeing to come on and talking about what some might feel is a touchy subject. We are not here to bash our parents. We love our families. You and I have discussed, we love our parents. We love our mom and our dad. What we are discussing today is the effects of maybe a parent being absent, maybe not in your life, your mom or dad, maybe not in your life for your whole life, for most of your life, for some of your life. And again, in my case, for having very loving parents, good parents, but unfortunately, my dad was a raging alcoholic. And so there were some things growing up that affected me. And so really we're talking about the effects of, and then what do we do about that now, or what have you done about that now, as well as myself? So I'm going to let you get started and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then we'll talk about what kind of childhood you had.
Yeah, thank you. Well, my name is Elena Rodriguez, and I actually really help people be seen in their calling. And so what that means is I've gotten really creative at listening to my GOD, my grand overall designer, my God, my main man. And when he calls you forward to do something, chances are that means you've been through it. You've got experiences, which is partly what we're going to talk about tonight. But I've actually turned that into my business, where I help other people do the same, because if they've had that surrender moment, if they've had, maybe multiple surrender moments in your life where it just doesn't seem like it could get any worse, and God got you through and you got back up, chances are you feel that tug to do something with it, but it doesn't mean you know what to do. So I kind of love helping people either write it in a book, make it clear, get their message out into the world, or even start a small business, just something with that calling that is being, pulled from them because of the experiences that God has seen them through. And that's really the work I do in a nutshell.
It is. And I have to say, and this isn't a plug, but maybe kind of, it's just total genuineness for Elena, because Elena has helped me. She's actually a big part of why I decided to even start a podcast. She was my coach, my life coach, and just helped. Man, I wish there were a way, and maybe these are ways, as we share today, that the more people that share these podcasts, the more that people become aware of maybe some things that they didn't even think they would hear in a particular podcast, right? And so Elena really helped me get my start in making the decision, move forward with a passion or an idea that you have. Started off as just audio, and then it went to radio, and then now we're here on YouTube, and then Elena has a Prospera TV Network that this podcast streams on, and via that through streams on Roku. And so also got to write a chapter in a book. So I am telling you, if you are thinking, you're watching this and you're thinking, really? Then her link will be in the description and you guys need to click on it. I'm not kidding. You want to talk about someone who's there to support you no matter what. Elena seriously is, and I was going to say literally, and is literally the most genuine coach for me and everyone that we have worked together with. She just is. And if you have this feeling, that tug, like she was saying, click on her link and get in touch with her because you cannot go wrong. I'm not kidding. So of course, thank you. So Elena, let's go ahead and get started. Tell me a little bit about your childhood and how you were raised, what kind of parents you had, and what kind of kiddo were you?
Yeah, well, I was the kiddo that was very quiet. I obeyed. I spent more time with my grandma that I remember, than anyone. And I was very close to her and she was very traditional. But whatever she said, I did. Like I just was a rule follower and I just was always a little bit more. It's almost like I held wisdom at a very young age that I can recognize now, but I didn't know that's what it was. And so I was just very chill. But at home, I was kind of alone a lot. I spent more time with my older sister. I have an older sister. Her name is Gina. It's just her and I. She's 7 years older than me. And so she's pretty much the one that I clung to because both of my parents were entrepreneurs. They worked a lot. We were extremely successful financially. My dad was an alcoholic. So it wasn't really like a warm household. We didn't do family dinners and we didn't go to church together, or we just didn't really do a whole lot of anything together. But I just remember always being with my sister. I would sleep with my sister. Her friends became my friends. They kind of took me in as their sidekick, but I was just always very quiet, observant, deep thinker, got very comfortable being alone and didn't really think anything odd about it because that's just what I always knew. And, I remember Christmases where my dad's drunk. I remember late nights, my dad getting home drunk. He was never violent. He was just absent. But when he did show up, he would always bring gifts. Like the abundance of money and success was what I saw. I went to kindergarten in a mink coat. I was so embarrassed. Like I was so embarrassed. Like the whole family had mink coats. Theirs were like down to their ankles. Mine was this little, zip up with the hood. And here I go into kindergarten and all of my friends have these plastic puffy, bright color coats. And I come in this like little Miss Priss mink coat, but I was never a Miss Priss,
Right.
When we'd go to dinner, I knew how to order my filet mignon, where if I went out with friends, they were like getting chicken nuggets. So it was just a very different environment. In first grade, my dad bought me a ruby ring, a really big ruby ring. One of my best friends, her family, they were jewelers in town. And so they had money and my dad just needed to spend more money. So my best friend got an emerald and I got a ruby. The rings were actually designed for us. And I lost it on the playground, waiting for my sister at track practice. I'm playing on the playground after hours by myself. Imagine a huge school playground, super quiet. No one's out there. I'm just having to entertain myself while my sister's at track practice. And I was on the monkey bars. I'll never forget. I was like just sliding, hanging, and it just slipped off. And it was a small pebble gravel playground. And I dug and I cried and I'm, looking for it. And I was more terrified about coming home and how do I tell my dad I lost this? And I'll never forget the clink of the fork when I told him when he was eating food. Like he just stayed silent, but he clinked the fork down like he was upset. And, I look back now and I'm like, well, why in the heck were you buying a first grader a ruby ring, But that just gives you kind of like an idea that I just was exposed to very fine things. I knew how to order properly and in fine manners, fine dining places, and we just had nice things. When we would go shopping, I just always saw the card being swiped. I never really learned about money and finances. We just had it until my parents got divorced and my dad took off, and then now we're broke. Now I'm wondering, like, what the heck? So living a life from two extremes, we can definitely get into that. But that just gives you a picture. My dad was very creative. He is the parent that I will probably talk more about not being present. He was extremely creative and extremely intelligent. And like I said, within just a few years, they had like 7 running businesses. So they definitely knew the entrepreneurial space. They were very successful. He was really creative. So when he'd come around, he would always bring me something like a calligraphy kit or a pottery wheel or paintbrushes and canvases, a microscope. Like, I remember all these things because he said, you'll never know what you're good at if you don't try many things. So I'm extremely thankful for him exposing me to so many things and allowing my creativity to flow. But his absence said more than the gifts. And once he was gone, yeah, it definitely became a root in my life of repeated problems and trauma.
And so it's just very interesting to me. I mean, gosh, in kindergarten, walking in with a mink coat, and yes, in first grade, having a ruby ring, and like you said, no business for a first grader to have a ruby ring, and then losing it, and then receiving all of these gifts. The entrepreneurial side of your dad, it sounds like maybe that's where you get yours from, possibly. And so how old were you when your dad left? I mean, you were exposed to your dad for how long, and then he left at what age?
I was 8. In fact, it's in one of my books. There's a moment where it's called The Dust Didn't Define Me. He had bought my mom a Fiat convertible. We had Rivieras, Cadillac. I mean, I don't even know how many cars, but his sweet car was a Corvette. I think it was a 67 or 69 Corvette he had restored, and it was gorgeous. It was like this copper gold flakes in it, white walls. Like, it was just a beautiful car. And he had that while they were separated, because I remember he would pick me up in that car and drive me around to get ice cream. And we would, even if we were at a stoplight, like, everybody knew Johnny Rodriguez, because I mean, he just made a presence in our town with all the business. But in that car, you can't help it, right? And I just remember feeling so special, and I'm, have these little pigtails, and I'm eating ice cream, and the wind is like smacking it across my face. But from about 6 to 8, he was still present, but they were separated. And I had been to his apartment 1 or 2 times. But at 8 years old, there's a core memory that I have where I'm helping him load his trunk. I'm helping him carry like a box of his albums from our basement, and I'm loading them in his Corvette trunk, which is not very big, but we're just loading things. And at 8 years old, as he took off, I had no idea. We lived in Indiana. I still do. But at that time, I had no idea that he was actually driving away from Indiana to move to Arizona. And he was getting remarried, and he was taking on a stepson and a stepdaughter. And I was 8 years old. And I just remember like being left, like him driving away. And we lived on a long gravel road. And I just remember the dust kind of kicking up as he drove away, walking into the house by myself. And later discovering that he was literally like leaving, but nobody bothered to tell me. Like, or if they did, I don't remember, but I really don't think it was discussed. I just thought he was taking things to his apartment, but he was literally like just leaving. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Hope Floats with Sandra Bullock. and the little girl when she is just like screaming for her dad.
Mm.
That movie, even thinking about it right now, I saw that at the movie theater years ago, not knowing anything about it. And I just sobbed, like uncontrollably ugly crying, because that's what it felt like. Only because I was so quiet, because I was so calm and chill, because I was always by myself, I didn't even cry. I
Mm.
didn't even know. I just swallowed it all in. And I just carried that with me for most of my life. But that scene in that movie where she's just like
Mhm.
screaming her head off, that's really how I felt inside.
Gosh, Elena, I can't even imagine, later and after the fact, as you look back, thinking, man, I helped my dad pack. I was helping my dad pack to leave me and my sibling forever, or you don't know how long, but to think, I'm just thinking in my mind, gosh, I don't know what I would be, how I would feel as you came to that realization as a teenager or a young adult. How did you feel when you realized that, wow, dad's not coming back and I freaking helped him back?
Yeah, I think from that like 8 to 10 year old, I still didn't even really know what it was doing. You kind of just take this in. I flew out to see him, me and my cousin. That was back when they could drop you off at the airport, put a band on you, and like let you fly by yourself as a child. I flew a lot by myself when I was young. I'd be like left with the stewardess, and then she would buckle me in, and I was just passed from one parent to the other. And I remember flying out there one time pretty young. I think by then I was in fifth or sixth grade, but years went by that I didn't see him. And I just packed it in. I just packed it in. I went to school. I was more trying to adapting to not having money. My mom is now working 3 jobs. She's seeing someone now. So there's someone new in her life who I gave him a really hard time. God bless his soul. He was my bonus dad now. But at that time I was like, don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Like, who are you? But she was working 3 jobs. Money was so super tight. And I just remember like the struggle for me at that time was being used to the certain lifestyle, being used to these brands of clothes and like all of this stuff. And all of a sudden I can't get those things anymore. And I was almost embarrassed. And it taught me a lot. Like, these are all blessings I carry with me today. I think that's why it makes me who I am today, because I know those things are not important. But at that age and time, it was to me, because it's the same things my friends had. And, you want to do the cool things. And all of a sudden they're like, what kind of gym shoes are those? I'll never forget. I got this pair of brand of gym shoes at Target back in the day before Target was like actually really cool. It was just Target. And I was embarrassed. And I remember saying, well, my dad sent them to me from Arizona. They don't make them here. And so I think for those early years, it was more about just me trying to figure out, like, who am I now that I don't have all the things that made me feel like me, and I'm having to just adapt to that. So then by like 6th grade, I think I flew out there. One of my cousins went with me, and I'm kind of meeting my stepmom after all these years for the first time. I'm exposed to a stepbrother, stepsister that I had only met like at a dinner one time, and we're all like heads down in our food, not talking to each other. But now I'm there, and all I wanted was just time with my dad. But the amazing thing is like you said, some of those characteristics that I got from him, I felt more like myself when I was with him. I felt more like, wow, you get me. You understand me. Like, I'm home. That's how I felt. Like, I'm home with you. When I'm in this home, I just feel like that's a place that I'm just staying. And that was hard. So then when it was time to come home, they literally had to pry my fingers off the terminal and drag me onto that airplane kicking and screaming, because I did not want to come home. I did not want to leave my dad. And I mean, I cried. My cousin was with me, and she was looking catty corner at me on the airplane, and I am just sobbing. And I just didn't want to go home. I wanted to be with my dad, but once again, I had to go. I could not be with him. So it was just trauma after trauma after trauma.
It sounds like it, and you know, and nothing against our moms, because we love our moms. They're our besties, right? But it's just the facts of how we felt at the time. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that are listening or that will listen that grew up in a broken home where parents are divorced and probably felt the same way. And it's unfortunate that children are unable to voice maybe to the other parent for fear of, I don't want to hurt that parent, my mom or my dad, whoever, whichever the parent is. I don't want to hurt their feelings, but I really want to live with my other parent or whatnot. And I want to, I work on trying to break stigmas. And this is one of them. For children to be able to, if they're able to go to a parent, and also for the parents to be able to listen, to hear your children, not listen to respond or react or take offense. Yes, we are parents. You and I are even parents. I mean, it's a label. It's the first time we are parents. It's the first time moms. It's the first time a wife. It's the first time a sister, the first time a daughter. Like, I'm giving all these labels, but I'm not perfect. And I'm learning sometimes right along with you. And I want parents to know that when your child comes to you and expresses how they feel, what a gift that is, that they feel the peace and the comfort, the trust to be able to come to you and say, this is how I feel, and to please not take offense. Of course, there's a difference when children are being brats and being rude and disrespectful and that kind of thing. I mean, obviously you have to speak and discipline, but for a child to be able to come and express themselves and tell you how they feel, truly feel, what a door to keep open. And I think we shut those doors sometimes by reacting or responding in ways that we shouldn't as parents. I've done it. I'm not a perfect parent. There are things that I obviously regret doing as well, but I wish I had gone and spoken to, my mom and said, this is how I feel. This is how I feel when, dad says this to me, but back in our day, it wasn't things that we discussed. And I think in this day and age, this era, this century, now is the time. Now is the time to open those doors, to keep them open, and for children to be able to feel that they can be their true, authentic, honest selves with their parents. For you, Elena, were you able to ever have that conversation with your mom and say, Mom, I really want to go live with Dad? Or was it that a forbidden? Did you not feel like you could? Or
oh no, everybody knew.
Oh, everybody knew.
Everybody knew. It was not an option. Like it wasn't even. I don't even think I was given like a reason. It wasn't an option. I remember even bringing to the conversation. Me and my sister, we are so different. Like we are each other's best friends, but we are very different. And so I feel like, if you had to say, okay, I'm more like my dad, my sister's more like my mom. So I'm in this home where they're like really, really close. I feel like I'm this like black sheep stuck out here in the middle of nowhere. I did bring that up, certain things that I was into, certain things that I was passionate about. And I remember being told, honey, that's just a phase you're going through. Your sister went through the same thing. And again, this is not bashing anyone, but I'll never forget that moment either, because it just shut down really the hope, the dream, the joy of who I was. I was trying to say, I'm screaming inside, I don't feel like anybody gets me. And then I'm just told, well, it's not even really anything real. You'll get over it, same as your sister. And I thought, but I'm not my sister. I'm not like her. And so that was a really difficult time. So I wasn't able to move. I'm stuck in this space where I don't really think anybody gets me anyway. I can't tell you the number of times I was called, well, you are your father's daughter. Well, yeah, I know, let's say that a little bit louder, everyone. So I just kind of became very guarded and started making choices just out of that space. But in my 20s, I knew that I had already made some jacked up choices in my life. It was evident all of this stuff was being carried out in my life. And I knew that if I were going to get married and I were going to have a family of my own, I had to work through some things. And I remember, because I would only see my dad like every so many years, and he really didn't make an effort to like call on birthdays, or it was just random. But every time I still absorbed like any bit I could get. But I knew, I want you in my life. And I don't care who agrees with it or who thinks it's a good idea or a bad idea. I need you in my life, especially if I want to become better within myself and raise children. Like, I knew I had to fix this part. So one of the times in my early 20s, I flew out to Arizona like 3 months in a row. Because when you see someone and then years go by or time goes by, you're kind of just like catching up again, and then it's time to leave. And you never really gain that traction to dig into stuff. You never really get comfortable enough to dig into the deep stuff. And so I was like, I'm coming back next month. I'm coming back next month. And, seeing him three months in a row, but I yelled at him. I got all my anger out. That 8-year-old little girl said what she needed to say. I brought my dad to tears. I just let it out, but it was because I wanted him in my life, and I had to say these things, and he needed to hear them. He needed to feel them. He needed to acknowledge them. And then we could figure out, what does this relationship look like moving forward? And we had that moment, I'll tell you, and I'm grateful for it. But for anybody listening that has had that kind of trauma with a parent, not everyone is comfortable enough to do something like that. But somehow, in some way, you need to be able to get out, whether it's on paper or in a safe group or just, in a room by yourself. You have to be able to say the things that hurt you tremendously and not carry blame or shame that you had anything to do with it. When a parent leaves, or a parent, the parent is the adult. The parent is making those choices. And as a child, you're just absorbing the residue of what's left behind. And it's okay to be mad about it, and that's where we got. I was able to share things with him. And then we had an amazing relationship up until he died of cancer. So.
Elena, thank you for saying that, because I think there are people that need to hear that. Okay, so on the opposite end of that, I'll say with my dad, whom I love dearly, he's with the Lord now. He and my mom are both in heaven. And my dad being a raging alcoholic, and the way that he raised us was because he was a perfectionist. We always had to do everything perfect, and it was his way or it was wrong. And we hid from him. If we didn't do things, we would do things. I would make sure I don't like to be in trouble. I was the kind of kid that was a rule follower as well.
Yep.
I don't want to be in trouble. I want to make sure I do it right the first time, because boy, I don't want to get a beating. And I wanted my dad to love me, and I wanted him to be proud of me. And I just longed, like you, for that that relationship with my dad that I never got, unfortunately. But I longed for it. And because I'm ADD, I'm going to take a side note. I know that there are people who think, why would a kid want to be with their drug addicted parent or their abuser parent or their alcoholic parent or whatnot? Children long for that connection but they're parents. And that's why I say it's so important, not just for kids to hear this or young adults to hear this, but for parents to be listening, because we long for that relationship and we'll take what we can get, but it's not fair.
Yeah.
So I remember, trying to be perfect. And, of course, I'm not a perfect kid. And so get beatings and locked out of the house until the morning and all of that. But we did things. One of the things that was sort of a remnant of something that my dad taught, it served a both negative purpose as well as a positive. The negative was that it kind of, if he told us what to do and exactly how to do it, then we did it exactly how he told us, or it was wrong. And he would take things, no matter what it was. If it was the garage, he'd say, take everything back out of the garage, and I want you to do it again until it's right. You guys didn't sweep the corners, whatever it was, and put my stuff back exactly where it was. Okay. So we did that. But as an adult, so that my life was like that. As an adult, it started trickling into, I can remember very, very vividly a job where my boss said, listen, you are an intelligent young lady. I want you to create this database. And I'm thinking, as soon as he said, I want you to create, I thought, oh gosh, no way. And he said, I want you to take this list of people and I want you to create a database. And we're going to use that database for now on. So even when you're not here, so I want you to continue to put in this Excel spreadsheet. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. There is no, and I said, well, do you have an idea of how you want it to look? And he was like, you got it. And I was thinking to myself, no way, I don't. I don't even know what my favorite color is. I don't even know what my favorite food is. I don't know what my favorite restaurant is. I don't know a favorite movie, a favorite song, a favorite band. I don't know any of this because I've always been told what to do, what's right, what's wrong, what to say, what not to say. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes or no. I was told how to do everything. Wow. And so I don't know how to do this because not that I couldn't think for myself, but I couldn't think for myself because I was afraid to fail. And if it wasn't right or I start to do something, I don't think this is he's not going to like this database that I'm creating because I have no idea what he wants it to look like. So I was disserviced that way. Yeah. It was a disservice. But what I took from that as an adult, once you start to realize these things and you start to unlearn these behaviors, I thought, okay, I thank God that he has brought this to the forefront where I'm self-aware. Thank you, God. And now I can work on unlearning these behaviors. But the beauty from what my dad did is that now I go to no one other than the Father, our Heavenly Father, and ask him, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to do this? I need your guidance and your direction. But, and it's with reverence and a fear. It is with a fear, but it is with a healthy knowing that God is he's our King. And I go with reverence in front of him with my head bowed. And I want to do what you want me to do. But I know that he will tell me, and he has. And so that's the beauty that comes from my earthly father. Now I go to our Heavenly Father. But it did take, and it's still a daily thing, as old as I am, to constantly tell myself when someone gives me something to do or says, hey, I want you to do this, or I think you could do, and my first thought after all these years of work is, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'll be good enough. That was another thing. I don't know if I'll be good enough. But then my second is, okay, God help me. And then I can move into. So anything like that, Elena, first of all, I commend you for being able to go to your father and letting it out. That was all that to say, that whole sidetrack, rabbit, squirrel, to say that you were able to address your father. I could not. I was afraid. But yes, years later, I went to therapy and was a puddle on the floor, letting it all out. And the layers started to come off. And I thought, I can breathe now because I was able to release that. And so good for you to be able to have that conversation with your dad. And kudos to your dad for listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
So what remnants, I guess, do you live with, or did you live with and have to maybe unlearn? Did you have any behaviors?
Yeah. For me, the moment that he left, at 8 years old, somewhere that belief was planted in me that I wasn't worthy of love. That if my own dad, the man that when he sees me is supposed to see the most beautiful baby girl in the world, the man that is supposed to love me more than anyone here on earth, like he's your dad, like he's supposed to be the one that just, is goo goo gaga over you. Like if he can leave me, anybody could leave me. And so I got into relationships very young. I became sexually active very young. I was looking for love, and I felt like, you're at that age, that's what guys are going to tell you, that's what love is, that if you do this, it's because I love you. And so I really started making some really dark choices, and I kept them quiet and ran away from home, and it just spiraled, all because I just wanted to be loved, but I felt like anybody could leave me. So I just never really felt like I could be selective or like pick somebody good. I was just going to take whoever actually wanted me. So it didn't leave me in the best of situations, and that pattern repeated. And as I continued to get hurt, because these guys weren't the best choices, so naturally the hurt was going to come. I figured it was me. I figured that's just what my path was going to be, that they don't stick around. They're not going to, that I wasn't special enough. So I really made some really dark choices. Then the moment where, I had met someone special and I thought, okay, get this right. That was in my 20s when I said, if I need to do anything good here, I've got to resolve this. I've got to at least come to some sort of understanding. And that's when I had that time with my dad. But what I also went through is, those years were great. I still ended up getting divorced. And when my dad died of cancer, I had the gift to be able to be there with him through the experience until he passed away. But it's amazing because in that moment, I became that 8-year-old little girl again. Even though I had sons of my own, I became that child again that felt alone, left, heartbroken. And that's the moment that I actually got into one of the worst relationships of my life. Very emotionally abusive, very narcissistic. And I can look back now. God has given me the gift of seeing things now, and I can't beat myself up about that. It was a horrible choice. It ruined so many years of my life, and also my sons, both of my sons' lives. But I also made that from that broken-hearted 8-year-old little girl. So that stuck around, of really feeling like, well, everybody's going to leave me anyway, so I'll just take whatever I can get. And it just destroyed me time and time again.
Gosh, man, I can relate to so much of what you're saying, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that are listening that will be able to relate to that as well. And one of the things, I'm kind of backtracking, but one of the things that you had said, man, I'll take my dad anytime I can get him. And the same with me when my dad was sober. Boy, he was a funny guy. Oh my gosh, I just fell in love with that man and just wanted more of that, And I could always tell, if he was, not drunk and he was joking around and in a good mood, we could joke around. And I thought, oh my gosh, my dad, I just love him. But the other thing that I heard you say that I love is, we as adults, men and women, we make decisions sometimes based on, yes, the remnants of growing up and making a decision, marrying someone, and it not being the best decision for our children. And yes, some of our decisions do affect, obviously not just us, but everyone around us. But I love that you said that you can't beat yourself up for that. And a lot of people need to hear that, because a lot of people are still living in the, it's my fault, or shame, guilt, which leads to worse than I think, beating yourself up. If you continue to live in the shame, the guilt, the blame, the anger, the hurt, that too is affecting the people that are around you, or the choices that you make. Believe it or not, being depressed and guilty and ashamed guide your choices and your direction. And it's so much better to let it out and to not beat yourself up for being a human being that made a decision based out of what? Out of hurt, out of anger, out of the remnants or the residual or the effects that came upon you from being a child. We're human beings. But if you become aware of that, okay, that's the reason why I'm the way that I am. Or if someone says, you're so much like your mother, and I'm like, oh, good, because my mother was an angel. But if they say, you're a lot like your dad, I'm like, in what way? What way are you saying? Because now I'm so self-aware. But and again, not bashing our parents. We love our parents. Yeah. And if I could have that conversation with my dad, I would. But I appreciate you for saying that. Don't beat yourself up. How did you get to that point? Like, what were your steps for healing, Elena? And what a blessing and honor it was to be there with your dad on his last moments in life.
That was a beautiful gift. Let me just say, it was an absolute beautiful gift. I mean, there were some of his siblings that even would say to him, like, you don't even deserve both of your daughters being at your side during this time. And I thought, who are you to say what he deserves or doesn't? But everyone could see he wasn't a present dad, right? But
sure.
That part of it was a true gift. I think for me, the healing really had to begin after he died, because then it was final. There were no more questions could be answered. You can't circle back and talk about a thing that surfaces. Like, it was gone. He was really gone. And in that really bad relationship that I was in, I tried to fix the man I ended up marrying. I felt like if I could help him, there was somewhere in me that thought, like, God, maybe it's kind of like helping my dad. It was just this weird place to be. It was almost like that 8-year-old little girl that if I did good and he would love me more, then he would be happier. Like, it's so complex. But I ended up going to counseling. We were trying to go to counseling, and he didn't want to go. He was so narcissistic that the counselor was wrong. He didn't need it. But I stayed going. And I'll tell you what, within 5 minutes of being in there by myself, my counselor, he actually said, you don't need counseling, you need therapy. And until then, I didn't really know there was a difference. And so in that therapy is when I was taken back to that gravel road, that 8-year-old little girl. That's the root of so much trauma in my life. So I'm thankful for it. And that husband that was the emotionally abusive husband, he ended up passing away. So that was like just another layer of trauma. But I'll tell you, when you're left feeling like there's just there's no place darker left for you to go, that's the moment God can shine his light the brightest. And for my sons, struggle with I like to call it mental wellness. They struggle with mental wellness. It's a challenge for them. So I'm trying to keep myself alive. I'm trying to keep my sons alive. I'm trying to help us see the value in living when it was really, really dark. And in those moments, there's very little control that we have, period. We can't even control when we're going to take our last breath. And I think when I realize I am truly in God's hands, my whole life has been in God's hands. He gave us free will. So he watched us crash and burn many times with our own choices, but he has never left us. And when I kind of opened up that conversation with him, that realization that you have always been here, I'm the one that failed to reach out to you. I thought I could do all of this on my own. And when I kind of fell to that space of, I'm done. I'm on my knees. I got nothing left. You've got to take it from here. And it's amazing at the moment that I was able to do that is when he began allowing me to see all of these circumstances through the lens of his love.
Mm.
Where was he when my dad drove away? Where was he, when I'm getting drunk at 13, trying to, meet boys? Like, where was he when I made the decision to get involved with this horrible narcissist? Like, where was he? And he's showing me, this is where I was. And this is how I see it. And this is the gift that you now have because of that. And I put that in a book that I recently wrote, is looking at all of these experiences through the lens of God's love. And it totally changed how I felt, how I saw it, the shame that I carried, the way that I would beat up myself, how I wish I'd have been a better mom during that time. Like, all of these things, it's all a divine, it's all in a divine picture. And if God allows you to see it from his eyes, you realize it's not a big mistake. It's not a big mess up. There's so much beauty that we can bring forth from those experiences if we choose to actually look for it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And tell everyone the name of the book that you wrote with that.
It's called Crowned by Faith, Building the Life God Promised, One Prayer at a Time. And yeah, Crowned by Faith.
And it's beautiful. You have to get one. And Elena, you, my goodness, just such a beautiful human being. What would you say to that 8-year-old girl? What would you say to her now if she's standing in front of you, that 8-year-old girl who's unknowingly packing her dad's car for him to leave her and be in and out of her life? And yes, there's the dust and there's the car. What would you tell her today? What would you tell little 8-year-old Elena?
And I'm glad that you asked that, because I have told her. I have told her that the love that matters most is God's love, that she's always loved, that it's okay to not be strong. Sometimes there's strength in saying, I just don't feel strong. And I never knew that. My whole life, I was the strong one. I was the wise one. I was the one that even my older cousins would come to for advice. I was just the soundboard, but it wasn't because of my strength. It was because of my hardness. It was because of that shell I had built, that it was like nothing was going to get to me. So I could take anything, bring it. And that gave the appearance of strength. And so I think it's okay to, as cliche as it sounds, it's okay to not be okay. But I would tell her that, God's love, man, that's the love that matters most. And that's the love that is overflowing. It is always there. It will never leave you. It will never fail you. And you are worthy of receiving it, and you don't have to earn it. And I mean, there's just so many things that could be wrapped around God's love, and we all have access to it at any time.
Absolutely. So beautifully said. So beautifully said. And that is the truth. There are so many words that describe how good God is and how much he loves you, and how, yes, you can't earn it. And he loves you, your imperfect, sinful self. He loves you. He loves you so much that he sent his one and only son to die for you. And yes, he gave us free will. And, there's just, like you said, so much. But yes, he is the way. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And, that is the only way to go. So, gosh, Elena, you really have inspired me in more ways than one, not with just today's interview, but with many interviews that you've given to others, as well as myself, but the books that you've written. And I encourage everyone that's listening to please click on the link in the description, go and get your books, because they are written with purpose. They are written with God and God's intervention and God's direction. And we know that through God, that's where the transformation comes. And a little guidance, a little love, a little direction that leads you towards him and to becoming your true, authentic self, become unashamed, to become a forgiving person, to forgive yourself, and to eventually love yourself, but most importantly, love God and spread his love with others in all that you do. And you do that, Elena. And I thank you so much for doing that. And thank you so much for coming on this evening and sharing with us. Boy, you've helped me even in as old as I am and as long as my dad has been gone. I take to heart a lot of things that you have said, and I think better things of myself because of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think it's important. Even though we age in years, we still had parents too. We were still a child at one time too. And the reality is that walking around, we have a lot of wounded children. We have a lot of adapted children who are adults, but children in adult bodies. And we have very few functioning adults. Do the work to heal, because we have a lot of wounded children, that inner wounded child, I should say. And then we have a lot of adapted childs in us, which means we are adults, but we've got a lot of that pain still lingering around. And in order to become that functioning adult, we have to look at that and be kind, be kind to that person. And, your parents did the best with what they had, yes. But ultimately you absorb some of it, but it's up to you to kind of clean that up inside, so that we don't, we're going to pass something else down to our children. Let's be honest, it's just the cycle, but right. We have the responsibility to fix the pains that maybe we didn't cause, but we'll do better if we actually heal them for ourselves.
Oh, amen. So beautifully said. And Elena, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, wanted to reach out to you, connect with you, what's a good way for them to come and find you?
The best way is on Facebook. I'm on Facebook all the time. You can just look up Elena Rodriguez. But otherwise, you can go to crownedbyfaithcollective.com. That's my main website. Book, journals, all my stuff is there, but you can reach me through crownedbyfaithcollective.com also. Thank you.
Perfect. And I'll make sure that those are in the comments or in the description, so you guys will have easy access to that to get in touch with Elena. And again, Elena, man, thank you so much. I thank God that you're my friend. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Tish. I love you.
Love you too. All right, everybody, you guys have a good evening. And until next time, I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Don't forget to share. And I really appreciate your comments and your subscriptions. You guys have a good night. Bye.
If today's episode speaks to you, Crowned by Faith is the book behind these stories and songs. You can order your copy at crownedbyfaithcollective.com.
This is your Prospera era, where dreams align with grace, abundance flows like rivers. You've stepped into your place. Rise, reign, and remember, you were born to shine. Welcome to your moment, Prospera, it's time.